Chapter 6. Hunted. I've always preferred the country over the stench and racket of a city. A man might pretend he likes noise and company, but deep down everyone wants a bit of quiet. Keeps the mind straight, keeps the blood from boiling. I won't miss Slanich, nothing there worth a damn anyway. Mud rode beside me on his nag, picking at what was left of his ear again. The wound was still raw and ugly, crusted over like bad leather. "Quit playing with it already. It's fucking disgusting," I said. He grinned wide, proud of the damn thing. "Think the ladies in the next town will fancy it?" I smirked. "I think you'll give 'em a good reason to run and hide. You look like a blasted creature." Rusty trotted up next to us. "Aye, cover that shit up. I'm sick of looking at it." Mud shrugged and pulled up his hood. My eyes drifted to red further back in the column. He marched slow, dragging his boots, spear tucked under his remaining arm. Surprised the captain didn't cut him loose in Slanich. I'd seen the bastard do it before. Wounded men are weight on the purse. Rusty noticed where I was looking. "Don't treat him any different," he muttered. "He wants to keep fighting. Captain's allowing it." I didn't ask why. No point. Men break or they don't. Red was still trying. The wind had a different bite to it that morning, not the clean, sharp kind you get on a ridge, but something slower, heavier, like cold fingers working through cloth and skin, not in a rush. I felt it before anything changed. The way the trees held still, the way damp air clung inside my gloves. The way the horses huffed steam like they knew something we didn't. Frost started showing on the roots along the road. Thin as spider thread at first, then spreading. Quiet, confident. Winter creeping in like a cut you didn't notice until it bled. I've marched enough seasons to know the signs. I fucking hate winter. "Freezing my balls off," York whined from behind. "When's camp?" Raider spat near his boots. "If you don't like the mercenary life, then lie down and die." Wasn't funny, but it made me snort anyway. Winter's bad for our kind. Villages barely feed themselves, let alone 100 hungry killers. We'd be living off scraps, hunting lean game, taking what wasn't nailed down. And if we had to crack skulls to live through the season, well, Winter doesn't care about morals. Bear, the former captain of Claw Company, wouldn't shut up about it. He made sure the whole column heard his every thought. "We're over 100 strong, Varn," he called out. Nobody ever used the captain's name, but Bear didn't give a shit. "We ought to slaughter the next town we find and dig in for Winter." The captain didn't react. He never did. Man could stare down a storm and never blink. "Too risky," he said. "We've made enough enemies in the west. No reason to make more in the east." Bear scowled. "You've made enemies. Me and mine were tolerated in the west. First town we find, I'm sacking it." The captain stayed calm, voice steady. "You mean us and ours, Sergeant. You're Worm Company now, which means you'll be looked after." Bear looked ready to spit back, but Noel rode a little too close for comfort. Bear shut his mouth and glared at the ground instead. The captain's always been like that, calm, unresponsive, like he'd already died well before he ever put on a cloak of rank. "Bridge ahead," Ricky barked from the front. That was usually a question, over or around. A nod meant over. A wave meant around. The captain nodded. We hit the bridge at noon, Sky was low and gray, same color as the stone under our boots. The river below was loud enough to feel in your teeth, all white water and black rock, chewing at the world like it meant to swallow the whole valley. The bridge itself was old work, narrow thing, no railings, just a long spine of stone over a drop that would turn you into paste. 2 men could walk side by side if they liked each other, 3 if they wanted to die together. Vulture Company went across in columns of 2, horses in the middle, wagons last. Heavy infantry up front with Rusty and Bear. The captain and lieutenant near the center with the standard. Light troops and archers scattered through the line because there wasn't anywhere else to put us. I didn't like it from the first step. Too tight. Too long. Too many places for someone to watch us walk into a grave. Mud trudged beside me, shield on his back, spear over his shoulder. "If I fall," he said, "tell Cutter he still owes me 6 crowns. "If you fall," I said, "I'm taking your boots, not running messages." He snorted. "Fair." Rooster was ahead with the other horsemen, keeping his mare steady. Wick and Pepper were with the bowmen, joking about who'd be the first to fall into the river. Crow walked near the captain, silent as always, eyes on every rise and rock. The lieutenant kept looking up at the hills on either side of the span, jaw working. "You see something?" Rusty asked him. "I see everything," the lieutenant said. "That's the problem." Bear was at the head of his platoon, shouting men into tighter formation. "Close ranks. You want room to swing? Go back to the fucking tavern." We were about halfway across when the world went sharp. First thing I noticed wasn't the arrows. It was the horses. They all tensed at once, ears flicking back, heads coming up. Every beast in the line felt it before we did. Then the air filled with the sound. Thrum. A dozen bowstrings at least, maybe 2 dozen. Some high, some low, all at once. Arrows came in from both sides, up high and angled down. We were in the worst place you could be, on a narrow strip of rock with nowhere to go and nothing to hide behind but each other. The first volley took men clean. One of Bear's front rank got an arrow straight through the throat and toppled backward. Another had 3 shafts hit his shield and 1 bite through the gap in his arm. Horses screamed as arrows punched into muscle. One reared and went over the side, rider and all, both of them flailing before the river took them. "Shields!" Rusty bellowed. "Up! Up! You bastards!" We raised wood and iron against the sky. Arrows rattled off them, punched through some, skipped off helmets. The bridge was suddenly slick with piss and horse shit and blood. Someone behind me shrieked high and panicked. "My hand! My fucking hand!" I risked a glance. One of the younger spearmen, name I didn't know yet, stared at the stump where his fingers used to be. 2 were gone from his shield hand, hanging from the rim by tatters of flesh. Pepper grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the side of the column. "Hold the line or I'll take the rest," Pepper snarled. Second volley hit, not as clean. We had shields up now. But even with cover, some of our boys dropped. 1 arrow clipped Wick's bow hand, grazed across the knuckles. Skin peeled open like fruit. "Shit," he hissed, clutching it. My fingers. "You can still pull," Crow said. "You've got 3 left. Make them count." The captain's voice cut through the noise. "Forward! Move! Off the bridge!" Lieutenant echoed him, louder and uglier. "Forward, you rats! Run and keep your fucking formation." Backing up wasn't an option. Forward was the only way off the kill box. We moved. Third volley came in as we started to push. 1 took Rooster's horse in the neck. The animal convulsed, crashed sideways, and took down 2 more mounts. Men tumbled, kicked, were stepped on. The bridge didn't care. "Cut them loose," Bear roared. "Get those horses out of the way." Men hacked reins, dragged screaming animals by the bits, shoved them toward the sides. A wounded gelding went wild, hooves lashing. It caught one of our light infantry in the chest. His ribs crumpled with a sound I felt more than heard. Mud kept his shield over us, teeth bared. Feels like they knew exactly when we'd be here. "Maybe they asked the river," I said. "Keep moving." We never made it to the end of the bridge before the real trouble hit. The rear of the column exploded in screams and metal. It wasn't just arrows anymore. There was the sound of men slamming into men, steel on steel, close fighting. The kind that makes a different sort of noise, wet and short. Rusty half-turned, trying to see past the shields. "What the hell?" Crow's voice, flat as a stone, drifted back. "They're on the road behind us." The cry came from the back. "Enemy in the rear! Enemy in the—" and cut off in a choked gargle. The column shuddered. Men started to look back instead of forward. That's how lines break, not from wounds, but from attention. The captain saw it. He drove his horse sideways, blocking men from turning. "Eyes front!" he snapped. "Rusty, Bear, hold them! Lieutenant, with me!" We pushed again, but now every step forward felt wrong, like walking away from a fire you knew would catch your house anyway. Then I saw one of them. They came up the bridge behind us in a tight wedge, not levee trash. Not bandits, professional foot, black feather cloaks over dark mail, helms rimmed in dull steel. Some wore bird skull masks over their faces, vulture beaks carved from bone or iron. The kind of thing meant to stick in your head so you'd remember who killed you. Vulture Company. I'd heard of them. Everyone who'd worked the northern circuits had. They took headhunting contracts, literal ones. You paid them to bring you proof a man was dead, and they brought his head in a sack. Or a basket if you were paying for the extra touch. "Fuck," I muttered. One of their front men grabbed a fleeing camp follower by the hair, laid his sword along the neck, and took the head with a smooth twist. No rage, no shouting. Just work. Arrows had softened us. Now the vultures came in for the meat. Our rear ranks tried to turn and form a line, but there wasn't room. They were still packed on the bridge, shoulder to shoulder, shield to shield, horses panicking, wagons blocking any kind of clean maneuver. I saw Bear shoving his way back, roaring for his platoon to about face. Rusty moved up to keep the front from collapsing in panic. The lieutenant drew his sword and waded past us, teeth bared, cursing us out of his way. "Hold the front," he snarled as he shoved by. "I'll plug the back." For a bastard, he meant it. He hit the vulture wedge like a thrown stone, shield high, blade driving low for the gut. He dropped their first man, then a second. For a moment, the advance stalled. Men on our side cheered, wild and tense. Then the vultures showed why they were famous. Crossbowmen in black cloaks stepped up behind their shield line, short bows, thick strings, wicked bolts. One rang out, then three more. Even in that mess, they picked their marks. The lieutenant took one bolt through the side of his helm. It punched in above the ear and out the other side. He stood there a heartbeat longer, sword half raised, eyes unfocused. Then his legs forgot what to do and he dropped like his strings had been cut. No scream, just gone. Rusty saw it. I watched his jaw clench, a moment of real grief, then he swallowed it whole. No time. "Keep moving," he roared at us. "You want his death to mean anything? Get the fuck off this bridge." Arrows from the ridges hadn't stopped. Every time one of us looked up, another shaft came hissing down. One buried itself in the neck of Mud's horse, which someone had just managed to drag forward through the jam. The beast crashed sideways, nearly taking me with it. "Off!" I yelled, shoving Mud clear as the carcass slid towards the edge. We were forced to dismount anything still on 4 legs. Horses were more trouble than help now. Men hacked saddles, cut gear loose, and let the beasts bolt if they could. A few went over the side, legs thrashing. The river didn't care about them either. Jester fought nearby, quiet as always, knife in one hand, short sword in the other. He stabbed low, under shields, in the thighs and guts. At one point he slipped in blood, took a cut along his scalp, and came up with his face half red, grin burned into the ruin the fire left him. He didn't seem to notice. Howler lived up to his name. He bellowed with every strike, voice raw. An arrow took him through the meat of his upper arm. He just snapped the shaft and kept swinging with the shield strapped to that same limb. Red went wild when one of the new boys took a bolt to the eye. He charged the Vulture line, screaming, got in close enough to crack a skull with his mace before a hooked blade caught his forearm and shaved off 3 fingers like they were candle wax. He stared at the stumps, then wrapped them in a strip of cloak and went back at it. Wick tried to lay down cover fire, his wounded hand shaking. He still managed to drop one of their crossbowmen with a good shot. A second later, a bolt caught him through the meat of the thigh. He collapsed, tried to crawl, and got kicked aside by a horse stumbling past. I lost sight of him. Raider was a rock in the middle of it. He planted himself near a broken wagon and swung his axe in hard, ugly arcs. One Vulture tried to come in low. Raider took him from shoulder to hip, splitting him so clean the man fell in 2 directions. Blood hit the bridge in a sheet. The Vulture behind that one didn't flinch. He just stepped over what was left and kept coming. I lost track of how many of ours fell. Men I knew by laugh or smell or the way they snored at night. Faces blurred. Names turned into sound. Every few heartbeats someone went down and didn't get back up. I took a cut along my ribs from a glancing sword. Felt like being hit with a hot hammer. Knocked the wind out of me. I staggered, vision tunneling. Chainmail kept me breathing. That's when I should have died. I saw the crossbowman lining up on me. Black cloak, steady hands, bolt aimed at my face. I tried to get my shield up, but my arm was slow. Too slow. Something slammed into me from the side. York. He tackled me hard enough to drive the breath I had left clean out of my lungs. We hit the bridge together. The bolt took him instead. Entry through the back, just under the shoulder blade, punching out under the collarbone. He screamed once, short and shocked. I rolled, got my shield over both of us as another volley came in. A bolt thunked into the wood near my ear. "Get off me," York gasped, coughing, blood on his lips. "You're heavier than you look," I said, more out of habit than humor. "Help me up, or I swear I'll haunt you." I dragged him behind a dead horse, propped him there. He was pale and sweating already. "You're a fucking idiot," I said. "This way you owe me." He muttered. "I hate you," I said, but I tightened the strip of cloth around his wound before I left him. I did owe him. I hated that more than the injury. The fight couldn't last like this. We were losing too many, too fast. The Vultures kept their formation, eating us from the back while the archers from the hills salted us from above. The captain made the only choice left. "Rusty! Bear!" he shouted, voice ragged. "Push the front! All forward! Now!" Rusty hesitated a heartbeat, eyes flicking back where the Vultures were chewing through our tail. Then he nodded once and bellowed to his men, "Forward, ram them, off the bridge or die here." Bear picked it up from the front. "Forward, drive them." We crushed what discipline we had left into one last shove. The front rank slammed into the enemy, blocking the road ahead. Some levy line, not vultures. Locals in mismatched mail and borrowed courage. They hadn't expected us to still have teeth. Raider, Mud, Red, Howler, Jester, and the rest of our hard cases hit them like a falling wall. Shields crashed, spears snapped, someone went over the edge, shrieking. I shoved forward with everyone else, ribs screaming, shield arm numb. For a minute it worked. Their line broke. They weren't veterans. They didn't like the look of Raider's axe or Mud's bloody grin. We punched through. Behind us, the vultures were still coming. Men at the back of our column were still screaming, still dying. Some were jammed in place between wagons and fallen horses, nowhere to go. 20, maybe more. Wounded, pinned, or just too slow. They weren't going to make it. I saw the captain glance back once. His face didn't change. Whatever he felt, he buried with the second lieutenant. "No turning," he roared. "They're lost. Get off the bridge." Bear heard him. So did the men near enough to listen. Some cursed. Some tried to push back anyway. Rusty grabbed one by the gorget and nearly threw him forward. "You turn around," Rusty snarled. "You die for nothing. Move." We stormed the last yards of the bridge with the sound of our own men dying behind us. When my boots finally hit solid ground on the far side, I almost fell to my knees, not from gratitude, just from sudden, stupid relief that the drop was behind me. No time to enjoy it. "Off the road," the captain shouted. "Get off the goddamned road." The ground rose up steep on our right, a dirt and rock slope studded with scrub and roots. Not a good climb in the best of days. Today, it was our only chance. We scrambled. Men tossed shields, dropped packs, threw themselves at the hillside, clawing at dirt that came away in sheets. Boots slipped, hands bled. Someone lost their grip and slid back, taking another man with him. Raider grabbed both by their collars and hauled them up like sacks. Mud grunted beside me, one hand clawing at a root, the other trying to keep his spear. "If I live through this," he panted, "I'm never crossing a bridge again." Hooves clattered below us. I risked a glance back. The vultures had reached the far end of the bridge, stepping over the bodies of our rear guard. Some of our boys were still fighting down there, cut off and surrounded, refusing to die quiet. I recognized Bear's second, Halvar, swinging his sword with a broken arm. Then a crossbow bolt took him through the side of the head, and he dropped. The vultures saw us climbing. A few started to bring bows to bear, but the angle was bad, and their own men were in the way. We were just far enough, just high enough to make it work. We crawled like rats until the slope leveled out into rough scrub. Men collapsed behind whatever rocks they could find, chests heaving. "Count!" Rusty rasped. "Get a count!" It took time. Nobody wanted to do numbers just then. In the end, best we could tell, we had maybe 80 men left on their feet, some bleeding, some missing fingers, one or two with faces half open. The rest were dead on the bridge, dead in the river, or trapped on the far side we'd just abandoned. Bear finally caught up, breathing like a forge, blood all over his mail. Not all of it his. He stomped straight to the captain. "You left them," Bear snarled. "You left 20 good men to be butchered." The captain met his eyes, didn't flinch. "I saved 80. "They trusted you," Bear said, stepping in close. We could have turned. We could have. The captain's hand moved faster than I'd ever seen. He swung the sword hilt, not the blade, cracked bare square across the bridge of the nose. The big man's head snapped back. Blood exploded from his nostrils. He staggered, dropped to one knee with a curse. "Get up," the captain said quietly, "or I'll have Rusty put you down for insubordination." Rusty didn't look happy about it, but he didn't contradict him. Bear glared up through the blood, eyes wild. For a heartbeat, I thought he might swing. Then he spat red in the dirt and pushed to his feet. "Aye, Captain," he growled. "Have it your way." "We move," the captain said. "They'll come for us. We keep ahead of them, or we join the rest on that bridge. Rusty, get the wounded moving. Crow, Leech, rear pickets. Wick, take anyone with a bow. Slow them if you can." We went. No clean column now. Just a broken line of men limping through scrub and stunted trees, leaving a trail of blood and dropped gear behind us. Every branch snagged cloth. Every rock tried to twist an ankle. Crossbow bolts started hitting again not long after. The vultures had found a way up somewhere behind us. They didn't rush. Professional work, a few shots at a time, never enough to show us exactly where they were. One bolt took a man named Fells through the calf. He went down, screaming and clawing at the shaft. Cutter slapped a rag on it, snapped the bolt, and had two men drag him along. Another bolt took one of our archers through the lower back. He didn't scream, just made a small sound and dropped. Nobody had hands to spare to carry him. We kept going. The sounds behind us got quieter, then stopped. I didn't look back. The forest thickened. The hills rolled up and down, steep enough to break a man's will. Mud turned slick underfoot. Men stumbled and cursed and kept stumbling. We lost the shape of the company for a while. Clumps of us spread out. Some faster, some slower. Crow did his best to ride the edges, trying to keep us from drifting too far apart. By the time the light started to die, my legs shook on each step. My ribs ached with every breath. My shield arm felt like someone else's limb hanging from my shoulder. That's when we saw the village. It was small, maybe a dozen hovels and a lean little chapel. One squat tavern with a sign swinging on rusted chains. Half the houses looked abandoned, shutters hanging, doors broken, roofs caved in. The fields around it were stubble and mud. Smoke from a single chimney, thin and nervous. The kind of place nobody came to unless they were born there or lost. The captain didn't ask. Worm Company didn't ask. We walked in like we owned it. Villagers froze as we came shuffling up the track. A woman carrying a bucket dropped it. A boy with a bundle of sticks took one look at us, at the blood and mud and dead eyes, and ran. "Rusty," the captain said. "Tavern." Rusty nodded, voice hoarse. "You heard him. Inside. Wounded first. Healthy after. Move." We forced the tavern doors open. The owner started to protest. Bear just shouldered him aside. "You're lucky we're not hungry enough to eat you," he growled. "Find your people a floor somewhere else." We cleared the common room of benches and tables. Cutter claimed a long plank and turned it into his butcher's block. Men came in on makeshift stretchers, shields, doors, whatever we'd grabbed. The place filled up fast with the smell of blood, sweat, and cheap ale that would never be drunk. Cutter rolled up his sleeves, hands already red to the wrist. "Get me clean water if you can find any," he snapped. "Fire for the irons, and someone hold this bastard down before I take the leg and the table with it." A spearman with a badly broken arm howled as Cutter yanked the bone straight. Another man bit down on a belt while his mangled hand was cleaned and wrapped. Someone else lost 2 more fingers to rot that had started before we even hit the bridge. Outside, villagers kept their distance. They clustered near the chapel and the farthest hovels, watching us with wide, hollow eyes. A few slipped away into the trees once they thought we weren't looking. Can't blame them. A battered mercenary company is just another kind of plague. We took the tavern anyway. It was that, or sleep in the mud with our mouths open for vulture blades. I found Mud leaning against a support beam, shirt off, letting Cutter stitch a long gash along his side. "Thought you were too ugly to cut," I said. "Blade bounced off my charm," he grunted. "What's left of us?" 75, give or take, I said. Less if Cutter's having a bad night. Rusty joined us, face dragging. He had blood on his beard that wasn't his. He wiped it off with the back of his hand and left a smear. "That was no accident today," he said. "That bridge, those hills, vultures don't work cheap." "House Caskell," Mud said at once. "Has to be. Who else can hire Vulture Company to cut another band's throat in the middle of a campaign?" Rusty nodded slowly. "They wanted us gone clean. No witnesses, no broken contract, just unfortunate casualties on the road." I thought of Lieutenant Knoll with a bolt through his skull, of the men we left on the bridge. We fell quiet. Outside, wind picked up. It hissed through the gaps in the tavern shutters. Men muttered in their sleep or in their pain. Cutter's knives clicked against bone. Crow came in not long after, shook his head at the captain. Scouts didn't see them. No sign of the vultures this side of the hill. Either they pulled back or they're waiting. "They're waiting," the captain said. "Then we'll post watches," Rusty said. "Eat what we can find." Bear sat in a corner, nose swollen and crooked, eyes blackening. He stared at the captain's back like he wanted to run him through. He didn't move. I stepped outside for a piss later, needing air that didn't taste like iron. The village was quiet. 1 or 2 lanterns still burned in doorways. Most were dark. Our men were shadows at the crossroads and alleys, weapons close, shoulders hunched against the cold. I looked toward the tree line, half expecting to see black feathers moving between the trunks. Nothing. Just dark and wind. Maybe Vulture Company had decided we weren't worth the extra bolts. Maybe they were circling to find a better place to finish the job. Maybe they were already gone, heads bagged, report written, pay taken. Didn't matter if they wanted us, they'd find us. That's what you pay them for. I was about to go back inside when something small and white drifted down in front of me. I held out my hand. A snowflake landed on my knuckles, sat there a heartbeat, tiny and perfect, then melted into cold water and vanished. First snow of the year.